Eric and I are bringing all the testosterone.
Okay, you hit that wonderful traffic. I had a horrible morning. My car battery.
I saw your
Died.
situation.
So,
My husband's out of town as well, so it's just me and a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old getting to school and stuff.
I mean, I'm not much closer.
Well, we're gonna go ahead and get started and, be respectful of everybody's time and, welcome to everybody here. I think we probably, I don't know if we all know each other, but, everyone has an agenda. I don't think the folks on, we'll email you guys the agenda and everybody the PowerPoint afterwards. Oh, wow, it's typing everything I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if we could go around the room and introduce yourselves, and to make it a little bit of fun, but not real long, state why infant toddler mental health is important to you and what brought you here today to learn about. So just real brief, and who you are and what foundation and why, what intrigues you about infant mental health, and excited to continue partnering with us. And Nalisha, I'm sorry.
Yeah, happy to start. Nalisha Henry, Vice President of Community Impact at United Way of Greenville. And certainly interested in mental health in all aspects, but especially how to have a much more upstream approach as we look at mental health issues is a concern to me, and how we support this community. So.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Linda Breeze. I am currently a senior fellow for the Institute for Child Success. I've been involved with a Child's Haven since its beginning, 40-some years ago, whatever it is. But, my background, my educational background is in child development and family relations. And so it's really been my platform my whole career. To encourage individuals to understand the importance of those very early years and how that impacts development.
Good morning, Leslie Latimer, Executive Director of Palmetto Shared Services Alliance. And we actually are taking mental health and running with it with our professional development and trying to increase the awareness of that across the state of South Carolina. With child care centers. So that's really kind of our big goal right now within the mental health.
I'm Derek Lewis, Greenville's First Steps Office. We primarily focus on getting children ready for kindergarten, and certainly there's a link between that early child brain development and early child trauma as predictors of early student success.
I'm Lisa Kassler, and I joined the board in 2000. And with a background in education similar to Linda, I have always known the importance of appropriate interventions at the right time. And so that's just been a passion for all these years. And now I serve on the advisory council.
I'm Bree Bess. I'm a program officer with the Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina Foundation. And yeah, I strongly see the connection between well-regulated toddlers and babies into well-regulated teens and well-regulated adults. And that's why we see the entire continuum.
I'm Janet Shelley, and I serve on the Greenville Health Authority. So we've been proud to partner with the Child's Haven, but in my personal world, I'm a fairly new grandparent of 2 one-year-olds and 2 more in the hopper, and I've been a guardian ad litem for 10 years as well. So I've seen the hurt and the trauma and how that can impact those children. So I'm proud to learn more about Child's Haven.
Hi, I'm Debbie Cooper. I'm with the Community Foundation of Greenville, and I also work with the Greenville Health Authority. I have always, had a passion for knowing that children get off to a good start. Not only am I a mom, I'm also a grandmother. So I think it's very important that all children in South Carolina have that fresh start and a good start initially.
And I'm Sally Alexander, Major Gifts Advisor. And I have been involved for about 23 or 4 years And probably the interest started as a parent and now as a grandparent.
And I'm Tracy Hardaway. I'm on the Greenville Health Authority Board. And I have 9 grandchildren, four sons and 4 daughter-in-laws. But, you know, our focus is to try to get more money specifically from the state and from organizations like ours to help support the great work you all do, because it's wonderful.
My name is Michael Beaver. I am with the Child's Haven. I've been here for 5 years. And the reason I was attracted to a Child's Haven is when I was growing up, there were these kids who started out, didn't have great home lives, and they ended up in the back of the room. And then toward high school, they drifted away and they just didn't finish. If we can help those kids now, they're able to stay in the middle of the room or even move to the front and have a better chance at a better life.
My name is Tanya. I was told by Lori I could go next, so thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. And my name is Tanya. For those of you who don't know me, I think we've all met either via Zoom, email, but it's great to see you in person, I have to say. So I'm Tanya. I'm with the Child's Haven. I've been here since 2017. Came in doing program and strategy and quality improvement. And Laurie and I had this great vision, and we put together the strategic plan along with all of our community members in 2018. And we have really done our best to put that in action, and we're really excited about the work that we're doing. And I love infant mental health, and I didn't even know what it was. To be very honest with you, I come from Department of Social Services. I have a degree in human services and business. And so I grew up in the North, bounced around with my husband with his job in Florida and Colorado, where I did a lot of prevention work with court-appointed special advocates, which is the Guardian Ad Litem program, as well as being a direct service provider and working in the courts. And so when I came here and learned that there's such a thing as infant mental health and that this exists, I love being more upstream and innovative and getting to the problem. I myself am a child that was in the foster care system. I was adopted at 3 years old, and my sister and I, we both suffered from severe neglect, and definitely have a lived story and walked through the trauma myself to really get to the other side, but also, of course, pay it forward. So this is a very personal mission for me as well. And so I'm grateful to do this work. I do it for my kids, and I do it for my adopted family, who I owe everything to. So grateful to be here.
And let's start with virtual. Haley, I'm just going to go on who appears.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Haley Wicker, and I am the Program Director for Early Childhood Development at the Mary Black Foundation in Spartanburg. And I am here, for 2 reasons. One, from the foundation's perspective, just, we believe children are going to succeed in life if they grow up in stable families, have nurturing relationships with the adults in their lives, and spend time in environments that provide stimulating experiences. So really interested to hear more about a Child's Haven and the work that they're doing. But also personally, I have an 8-month-old baby boy. And so my whole perspective on everything involving little people has changed since becoming a mom.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Phil, then Tamika.
Hi, this is Phil Redmond. I'm a program officer with the Duke Endowment. We have a history of partnering and funding with a Child's Haven. Our focus is in our program area is children who have been or who are at imminent risk for child maltreatment. 50% of those are little ones, birth to 5. And so we look forward to learning more and looking for new opportunities with a Child's Haven and others.
Thank you. Tamika, then Janice.
Good morning. This is Tamika Williams, as Phil said, with the Duke Endowment, a program officer. He described what our population is and the importance of having a focus for very young children because of their prevalence in the system. And as someone else said, infant mental health is truly growing across South Carolina with the knowledge and the experience of folks. And so as we can stay connected to that and places like a Child's Haven, I think I think it puts us in a great place to respond to the needs of very young children.
Thank you. And Janice?
Yes, good morning. I'm Janice Badley. I have the privilege of serving as a contractor with the Child's Haven, assisting and helping them tell the important story of a Child's Haven and the mission of the organization. I love just the passion that I've heard from everybody in the room about this topic. And I echo many of you have said, just that greater awareness of the start that a child gets in life can really impact the trajectory of their lives. So I'm thrilled to be a part of that. And I also must throw in that I am the grandmother of a 9-month-old grandson who is mighty perfect. And so Haley, I understand.
And I think we got everybody that's on virtual, is that right? Okay, and so those of you that are on virtual, Michael is monitoring. So if you want to speak up, just raise your hand so that we make sure that you are fully incorporated into this meeting. I'm Laurie Rovin, and I am the Tanya's predecessor as CEO. I retired at the end of October when I turned 60 and decided to start my own business. And then of course, COVID hit, but it was a great opportunity for me to become, I received accreditation in interim leadership. And so I do that, as well as when Tanya, she's hiding from me.
I'm trying to get out of the way.
So when I completed my interim CEO with the Period Project, Tanya saw that and reached out and asked, she said she missed me, and asked if I would come back and work with her to help her and the staff and the board to bring to fruition what we're going to present to you, which was a part of those of you that work with us on the strategic plan. It was in the pipeline back in 2018. So we're going to jump right in and see if I can do this. I need to do it twice. There it goes. Well, okay.
Push back up one. There you go.
We are 30 years old, and I'm sure folks like Linda and Lisa helped to get us started. But it is, I don't know, I learned that she was 10 years old when I started. That's it. So, no, but truly, there's always been a vision. Our founder, Marion Hunt, has had a vision. I'm sorry, Eva Hunt, excuse me. Had a vision that Marion has helped to fulfill her mother's legacy. And we could not have achieved 30 years without the support of so many community folks. So what we thought we would do is I'm presenting the history and our kind of where we're at and our current outcomes. And Tanya is presenting where we're going. So we started with 10 kids. That was it. And in 97, expanded to 40, hired first CEO. I think Veronica was the first CEO. And then we began to receive some major grants. In fact, I think Duke Endowment was the first major grant we received to provide family therapy and home visitation. The 2-generation model has always been at the forefront of what a Child's Haven has done. 2014, we moved into this wonderful building in honor of Tunky Riley. We started a tremendous transportation program, which we have scaled back, but found very economical ways to help parents to get here and still have it for those that really still need it. In 2016, I came, and we really stepped up our core services. We started the infant toddler program in honor of brachycoma. And we got our first car fit. Actually, it may have been early 2016 or 15 because we were re-accredited when I was still here in 19. It's 3 years accreditation. Those of you that know me know that I worked at United Way for 10 years when Community Impact started. I drank the Kool-Aid on impact and outcomes. And I was determined to have quality improvement. And I had a job description sitting on my desk. And this wonderful person, Tanya Communis, reached out to me and said she wanted to work for me. And so we started together, the quality improvement department, took us through our next reaccreditation. Then through the support of the community of Healthy Greenville and other funders, we created this amazing therapeutic outdoor garden that we call it Toes. And we extended day, we added extended day for those that needed the full day. We also added 4K. So, okay, yeah. In 21, we launched, we always had 4-year-old classroom, but what's different is with a partnership with South Carolina First Steps, we had a true 4K classroom. So we have a 4K teacher from the district. We then partnered, we've always partnered with various folks, First Steps and, et cetera. But we implemented, we joined the Inclusive Collaborative. We implemented the period model, which is, if you go online, it's challengingbehaviors.org, and it can be integrated in any setting, and it really addresses challenging behaviors. But what's unique about it is they partnered nationally with infant early childhood mental health, which in our state we call SCIM. And so there's this real synergy there. We then, through the support of the Community Foundation and Margaret Linder Southern, I think I said that correctly, we got grants to really intensely, every single direct service person in this building is getting pyramid model training. And then you'll hear later how it's a career trajectory for folks to be able to move up the ladder and eventually take out into the community without us building new buildings. We strengthened, we've always used Help Me Grow, but we have a more formal partnership now with Help Me Grow. And we became partners with the Aspen Institute has what's called Ascend network. And you'll hear later about the 2Gen. There's actually a formal 2Gen, South Carolina 2Gen, that we are official in that founding cohort in South Carolina. And this year we've added more health and economic supports. New Horizons is now, their mobile van is coming here. It will go out into the community, our future projects, and SC Thrive. Is everybody familiar with SC Thrive? So it's like basic economic connections where we can do case management and one-on-one can help somebody to fill out an application, whether it's for health stuff or other economic supports. So we are formalizing that contract now. So you all know our rich history, and I think everybody here is familiar with ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experiences. All of the children over the 30 years have come through this door with multiple ACEs. Now it's an average of 5 for each child and caregiver. So this is just I'm not going to read through all of these, but over the course of the last 5-6 years, if not before, I mean, I was overseeing a Child's Haven when I was at United Way from a impact funding partnership, but we've always had goals around self-regulation, health. We've had partnerships with Prisma. We've always worked on parent-child relationships, things like that. we've really stepped up over the last few years, measuring social determinants of health and really interlinking it, but that not just us writing grants about it, staff really understanding what these impacts have on, the children and families that they work with. I see it there, but not there. There it is. So this is a snapshot of our current demographics of June last fiscal year. So, you can see, what that is. And again, the ACEs of 5 or more. And we're measuring everything. Doesn't want to go.
Nope, you just second.
Oh, there it is. Sorry. These are, this is in our impact report, and again, I'll send this out. But this is on a very high level of outcomes that 93% of the caregivers are reporting real, meaningful parenting skills and strategies to overcome situations, are really having those protective factors. 85% are improved on their school readiness, which is huge, to be in that we've had just during 2022, over 1,000 family therapy sessions. And we've got a great team of therapists. So that's the high level overview. I'm gonna turn it over to Tanya. Thank you. And who's going to take you to our future. And I just have to say that we have a rock star in our CEO here. She genuinely cares. I came back because I so enjoyed working with Tanya, and it was hard to say no to her. And I'm excited to help everyone to bring to fruition where we might be in the next 30 years.
Thank you, Laurie. And I really appreciate you and your vision, what you've done in this community. I think everyone in this room really appreciates what you have done and just how determined you are. And I love that about you. I really do. Okay, so I'm going to just walk us through some of the highlights of what we're thinking of, where we're going. Laurie did such a great job of kind of talking about the history and milestones. 2020, I just have to mention, we can't go without saying that 2020 really helped shape where we are now. Everything we've done over the past 30 years and continuing today, even, your voices and your feedback is helping to shape who a Child Haven is and what we do and how we scale ourselves. We have this great strategic plan that I kind of mentioned at the beginning that Laurie and I and the team put together in 2019. Right before the world fell apart in 2020. And so we had, I have to say that strategic plan, I love a plan. I'm a very structured person. I like data. I like to check things off the list. I like to measure it. I'm all about a plan. And so we have a really great plan. And so when we're looking at the plan, the main goal is we needed to design a program to shape our program that we can help break these cycles, this generational cycles of abuse and neglect, adverse childhood experiences, and really applying all the science, all the knowledge that is out there, not only in this building in South Carolina, but internationally accessible to us to help us inform what is the best direction. So data really is the story that we like to, helps us tell us a story. And data has also shaped what our decisions are and where we are going. But we did see that there are gaps in areas for children and families. And we have to look at what are those gaps and how can the Child Haven fill them? We have always been a critical resource in our community to be there for children who are expelled from mainstream child care centers. And so we really had to start thinking about, okay, well, how are we, one little building in Berea, going to possibly serve all these children around Greenville County, let alone, and then, the state. I mean, it's a overwhelming thing to think about how we could possibly do that. And so we really had to kind of think about, well, you know, a Child's Haven, the great thing about a Child's Haven, which I appreciate the most, I have to say, is just the support from our community to be able to be innovative and the ability to support us in finding the best solutions and bringing them in a very systematic, structured way with the support of people who need to be at the table. And so we started thinking about that, and we looked at a lot of issues that we were up against. Let's see if I can get us, oops, wrong way. The bottom one. Yeah,
Yep.
got it.
You're the second.
Yeah. So when we started thinking about, you know, looking at logic models, looking at our data, we do see that children are doing really well when they come to our program. Our goal is to get them to be able to sustain a placement in a less intensive space, whether it's a early childhood center, a school, wherever they go. We want them to be able to socially, emotionally, behaviorally be able to sustain themselves. And we also know from the science is that that we have to pay attention to what our adults need, the adults in their lives, in order to ensure that those outcomes that we're trying to work on and help them with, that it's happening with the home and that we're seeing change with the parents as well. This is very much the key to everything that we do. When we look at some of the issues that we face, preschool expulsion is an indicator that we know is at risk for those children and families being excluded and not getting what they need, those high quality opportunities where children can be in healthy environments, learning, stimulated, and meeting all of those developmental milestones. We know that that is a really big problem, not just in South Carolina, but everywhere. Since 2020, the Children's Trust data tells us that there is even more of a problem where the childcare shortage that exists, along with the low pay for childcare workers, which is $9 per hour, by the way, for a childcare worker in South Carolina. That is what, you know, the data says from the chamber. Greenville Chamber, which is just, we have to change these things, right? And so it's a very big problem. I know we've been working on all of this for years. I mean, I'm looking around the table, we all know that this is nothing that we don't know. And so that is why we really had to think about, well, maybe part of the problem, like we have to go meet where the families are. How do we, rather than expecting families who are expelled and then, you know, and again, we are not blaming childcare centers because we have to realize that these childcare centers do not have the funding, do not have the support, don't have the other things that are given to them to be able to put in place a really great training and professional development plan with benefits who are going to attract talent and retain them. It's really hard. And so we want to, and thinking about all of that, we really want to be thinking, how can we at a Child's Haven best support that and really reverse the problem? So we're really reverse engineering our other kind of concept rather than having children and families come to us and, you know, with fingers crossed that we have a slot kind of a thing and maybe wait for a few months, you know, which is you know, the data tells us that they're not getting immediate access to services. There is a lag no matter what. There is a traumatic event that happens when expulsion does happen, and it's unintentional to the families. We don't want them to happen. It's just that there's no resources. And so we have to think about, we know that all of the children in South America, about 62, or not South America, where are we? South Carolina. We're not in South America, I'm dreaming. 62% of them. Yeah, South America, I'm just, you know, on vacation over here, have a high ACE score. So we know that within all of our childcare centers, there are children and families who have ACEs. There's generational trauma, there's abuse and neglect that is happening. We also know that in South Carolina, our health and well-being, child health and well-being, access to health care, we have some of the worst numbers in South Carolina. And the thing is that in South Carolina, especially in Greenville, we have a lot of resources and we have a lot of partnerships. And so what we're really trying to do is also try to collaborate with and see the landscape that exists within the child welfare space. We're really trying to reimagine and redesign their early childhood profession itself and advocate for that. How do we do that? And so that's where we, rather than, the arrows on children coming to us, it's kind of like this reverse, that we will have professionals who will be able to be integrated into childcare centers as a way of preventing the problem. And we have a lot of ideas around how that can look. Some of the other things, when we look at our full model, we have our 3 core services that we have really solidified, which is therapeutic childcare, individual therapy, and family therapy. Those are the 3 core services that have really worked well for us. But looking at the needs of our families, we know that that's not enough to get them completely out of poverty, to get them completely everything that they need. We know food insecurity, housing, adult mental health, and many other things are really important as part of the picture. And so there exists in the world 2 generation approaches and that are really coming together, and over the last 10, 15 years have really made a mark, not just in the United States, but actually internationally. This graphic here is from the Ascend Network. Like Laurie said, we had come across them through the South Carolina First Steps and the Early Childhood Advisory Council, who is tasked with bringing the 2 generation approach to South Carolina, called the South Carolina 2-gen community of practice. And it's newer, and we are, we're friends with them. We've been friends with them since 2022. But what we're trying to do at Child's Haven is be an example of what it looks like to be practicing a 2-generation approach, because we really do all the science, everything that we point to points that this is the model that makes the most sense for breaking the cycles of abuse and neglect, is looking at all of the social determinants of health and ensuring that they are accessible to these families. And again, it's really relationship focused. Everything that we do is relationship focused. When we look at schema and the pyramid model, it's about relational health. And there's a lot of work that we can be doing, and we can be doing more to help educate our families about what toxic stress is and ACEs and how that can show up, and also how to mitigate it. When it's amazing when you're a parent and you learn something about the health of your child and how it affects you, the changes that you will make because you want to prevent that from happening. When you know better, you do better, kind of a thing. And so we want to kind of integrate those things into the work that we do. So we're really changing not only the behavior, but there's a reason why people understand why we're asking and really trying to protect their health. Again, this is all about preventative health. I love this graphic because it just shows, this is going to come to you in a PowerPoint, so you don't have to take notes or anything. This is from Ascend Network. This is the graphic that really just shows that whole family approach that we are going for. There's childcare that is always essentials to it, but there's also post-secondary and employment and pathways. For adults, we're looking for them to uplift themselves from poverty. It takes a lot to do that. We're looking at a lot of low educational attainment in South Carolina for our adults. That is the population that we're working with. 50% of the families that we're working with on any given time are already involved with a child welfare system, are coming in with generational ACEs. So we have to really understand that we can't just give people a plan and expect them to be able to do it. Working in Department of Social Service, you cannot do that. Some people literally need you to walk them there and read the form and help them fill it out and follow them up with them later and talk them through it. That is what social services is. There's a component here that is not just clinical. We're trying to infuse that social component because that is the area that we feel like is really going to move people and change people, for the good. And so this is the model that we're looking at. Like Laurie said, we have targeted partnerships that have helped us kind of work on achieving these different buckets. Specifically, we have partnered with, South Carolina Infant Mental Health Association. Just like Laurie drank the Kool-Aid with Outcomes, I drank the Kool-Aid with them. I'm getting endorsed, like I take all the things. What we have done over this past year is work with them to establish a contract where we are doing center-wide implementation to offer endorsement, which is a credential that is for multidisciplinary fields. So anyone can really get that. And what it does, it's an overlay that really demonstrates the expertise and your ability to serve children and families in a trauma-informed way. And so it is a standard basically for our professionals that we're able to, basically, it's the best way of guaranteeing that the professionals that are going into the centers are really the professionals that need to be there and are the best ones to be trauma-informed, because we know, and I'm on the foster care review board, I can tell you that the trauma-informed training and professional development and reflective supervision are not part of the current landscape for these different professions, and it is a missed opportunity. It is a big problem because these individuals are making really important decisions about children and families, and it's up to them and how they feel that day of how they're going to make that decision, which is scary. There needs to be standards on how we are equipping our professionals. And so South Carolina SCIMA helps us do that. Our goal is to have as many professionals within our organizations to be endorsed. We already have 8 people applied and approved. Our goal is to have several more. We had 55 employees here. You can kind of see how that will grow. But the goal then is that when we are going to be creating incentives for people to get endorsed, right? Because what it's worth. $9 an hour. I'm not going to go to school and to get $9 an hour. There's better be a better pathway. I love my daughter, Jordan. She's 10 years old. She wants to be a teacher. I want to create a better pathway for her so she's not making $9 an hour, because she is not going to want to live like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like we have to create more. And so within this organization, we are creating that ladder so that endorsement, when you are endorsed, there is a title and a compensation. Same thing with the pyramid model. We're working with them. They work together nationally, like Laurie mentioned, and working with Heather Gooch and the South Carolina Inclusion Collaborative, where they came to us and really wanting to implement that. And together and align, I mean, not siloed, we are working together, SCIMA and the pyramid model, to implement both of those evidence-based practices together in alignment, in conjunction, because that's really the best practices that exist, is that when you have both of those together. So we're in the middle of doing that, excited about it. It gives us a lot of opportunities to also create career pathways for the pyramid model, train the trainer. We have a tiered approach there where we are able to have pyramid model coaches that are trained here that then also can go to other centers. So there's a lot of different ways that we are trying to create pathways for professionals who want to work in this space but make more money. Also with SC Thrive and New Horizon, those are 2 of our newer ones that we are working on solidifying contracts. The reason why we are working with them is because with New Horizons, we have a mobile van that comes to our center and provides primary and preventative healthcare to our families. I have actually a card that we'll send home with you that kind of shows all the services. But this is a major advancement, because we know that these families, there are so many barriers. I mean, I don't know if you made an appointment to go to the doctor anytime soon. It's really hard to get a doctor. It's really hard for our families to think about transportation, to think about if they have substance abuse issues, which a lot of our families do. Mental health, that they're not going to get their child to go to preventative child checks on every 3 months and do developmental screenings. Like, they're going to need additional help. And so we have to try to figure out how to do that. And so this helps us bridge that gap so that all the families here, for the child and the caregiver, get full service and access to that healthcare, as well as create established patient-doctor relationships, because there are centers throughout the upstate as well as these mobile units. And so they're working with us because they're really trying to multiply their impact up here. So we're in that partnership. We're really excited about the access to healthcare that we're going to have. SC Thrive is also the other one, which we're really excited about. Again, looking at all of the different supports and things that parents need, social support, parenting, economic support, all of the stressors that add on and pile on that lead to toxic stress, that lead to abuse and neglect. And this is what we're trying to kind of get away from. And so we're excited about these partnerships. And where there's more that are coming. And so that's really why we're also here with you today, because we know that there's more to look at. So this right here is just an example of kind of what we are wanting to, some of the ideas that we have in the model that we've kind of come up with for now. You kind of see a child's haven at the middle. You see these arrows going out. And basically what we're trying to show is that we're wanting people to look at us as an investment to help us develop these trained mental health professionals who are really equipped and able to go to these different centers and help these different centers by being there to help detect and identify any children who might have developmental delays or who would be at risk of being expelled. Rather than going down that road, there is a resource right there all the time, a mental health professional also there. Is the goal there is to also help the whole center. When we're there, we're not just helping and providing direct service to the children and families who need it. And when we're saying direct service, they're getting, if they need the individual therapy, if they need the family therapy, all of these different programs that we are able to give them, we can give them to them right there. And the goal is for them not to be expelled from their center, that we're able to help that family sustain being in that placement so that there is no disruption to the family, which is really what we're trying to do. And of course, the great thing that I think comes along with that is, we're helping to change stigma, and helping these families to, and really embracing them and giving them a hand, rather than what they've been conditioned to do, which is now, which is not to be embraced and to kind of feel shameful for the position that they're in, and really trying to break down that stigma. The other important part of the pathway that we're looking at, in addition to this integrating with child care centers, which, by the way, we do have many partners who are very interested in being our pilot centers in Greenville and Spartanburg. And we built those relationships, and we are, the great thing about being a demonstration site for TOES, which is our outdoor environment, is we get a lot of traffic, and a lot of childcare centers have been able to come through, and I've been able to talk to them a lot about just all the things. And through that, I've been able to work with great people from South Carolina First Steps, or in Spartanburg as well, and identify the needs that they have, that they're telling me this is not something that we kind of came up. This is also something that childcare centers are saying, yes, we need this, we need this, we need this support. We don't want to be kicking out children. We don't want to be having to keep having turnover over and over again. Like, it's more of a collaborative approach to help support the existing systems that are really meant to be there and can be a really great hub for health and well-being as a whole. I'll just kind of briefly say advocacy and partnering with higher education is also on this vision board. That's not something we want to dismiss and kind of take out. Along with creating career pathways within our organization, we also want to create a workforce pipeline by working with higher education, getting further upstream so that when we're looking at talent, and when students are coming out of higher education, that they have trauma informed, at least a foundation of what that could look like. With Schema, I know that they're working really hard to put a certificate into place that would be available for higher education to go in towards their core curriculum. That would allow them to even possibly have opportunities for getting that kind of coursework and that kind of training before they are graduating, to really help them, as well as maybe we could be an internship site. We are for Furman. We have several interns. Actually, we have 9 right now. 9 clinical interns from Furman, and actually also early childhood education. you know, it would be such a great opportunity for that student to have that hands-on training, because you don't know what you're getting into until you get into it. You know, like this is a special field. This is not just daycare, and that's the other thing that we really are trying to get our government. This is not just daycare. This is the most important place to invest. If you're going to invest into people, it's going to be into the children and to the families at these very sensitive times when we have more of a chance. And so advocacy is going to be something too that is on our list of really trying to, through this project, it help inform the policies, program decisions, and that are being made for South Carolina, and really use our data and our story and our collective impact and voices to show that there needs to be more priority in investing into this population. Some of the key benefits, I won't read them to you here, is that, you know, we're looking at social determinants of health. We're looking at the whole family. We're not just looking at fixing maybe just one part of the whole story. We realize and value that families are really complex and comprehensive, and comprehensive solutions really are needed. And so this is a multidisciplinary approach. This is not just a clinical approach. That's how we're really trying to look at this. And we're really wanting the voices from all perspectives to help us identify the areas that maybe we're not seeing, help us unlock doors that maybe we don't even know exist, or help us be either thought leaders, or also endorse and support and show your support through letters of support for the work that we're doing. There's many different ways that we're asking people to help us. And of course, thinking about everyone's capacity, time, and constraints. But we're really wanting, again, this to be a collective project. Let me see if I'm almost done. Again, are we done? Okay, we're gonna move into discussion. I kind of talked about all of those fun things, and we're into discussion time. So let's discuss.
Tanya has really done a phenomenal job in helping the team here to understand the direction. And now we're on a mission to really further deepen our partnerships. And so I'd like to just open up to everyone your thoughts, your feedback. I also must say that we were remiss in not putting Triple P in Greenville First Steps. So sorry, because we are Triple P, which is a positive parenting approach that is integrated already here, that will be taken out, and we'll add it to the slide before we send this out. But we'd love to get your feedback and your thoughts and concerns and questions.
So your outreach, what are you proposing? Are you proposing that your trained staff would go into these centers, and is this something that would happen on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, or a monthly basis?
So that's what we're kind of trying to figure out. So kind of the overall concept is that, yes, exactly what you said, is so that we would have one of our endorsed professionals here be kind of assigned to a center. Now, of course, that center is 100% on board, partners, has done like a readiness kind of assessment with us. We have an MOU in place, kind of a thing. But yes, the concept is that therapist would be there and probably, and actually just be there at all times. They wouldn't really be coming to the center at all. We would want to ensure that they are getting all
our center,
the main center, all the training and professional development. We would ensure that, because we do a lot of that here at the Child's Haven on an ongoing basis. That's the only way that we can ensure that we're getting all of it in. And so we need to ensure that they would be getting that. But other than that, they would just be going to that center. If it was a smaller center, we had maybe talked about If there wasn't a great need, maybe there would be 2 centers, maybe close by, but thinking about the geography, you know, and all of those. But the concept is to have one person go to that center.
Have you developed what the pilot model would look like?
Yeah, you can go. Okay, so we're, yes, we have drafted the pilot model and we've engaged the Institute for Child Success, who will do the evaluation. We are hopeful that a funding partner, we are looking at the first 6 months. We're looking at doing a 3.5-year pilot project, of which we are in discussion with one of our funders to fund starting in July. You know, everybody has different funding sources, timeframes. So we're looking at starting in July with a really deep design. We have a concept and a draft of which we are submitting to our funders, and we've submitted, I guess I'll be very transparent, we've submitted LOIs to both Blue Cross Blue Shield and Healthy Greenville on this replication model, and really studying it along the way. You know, we know that there are going to be barriers. We know, space, just where will that therapist work out of? So that's going to be in the discussion. And, we're working with we will be working with the ICS and other partners, First Steps and others, United Way, others that are like actively out there to really fine tune what we think the model will be. And then we're doing an evaluation. So it will go through a whole IRB, is that the right technical word, by the end of it, so that we will have recommendations to put forth. These 10 programs, 5 in Greenville and 5 in Spartanburg County, will be asked. Part of it is, so we're going to give you something, you're going to have to give us something. What are these lessons learned? The good, bad, and the ugly. What are the barriers in implementing it? And how can we do it? We, through United Way and First Steps, when I first started at United Way, we had a great partnership with 5, I don't remember what they were called, but 5 amazing childcare professional supports that went into the classroom and helped with the redesign, helped as much as they could with behavior, but they weren't there for any length of time. So yes, we have a concept that we're going to be piloting and tweaking, along the way. And we really want our funders to be very hands-on support and be honest with feedback and be at that table and have that discussion. Have you thought about this? Tracy, you mentioned state funding. We are looking at the DSS, what's Beverly's department?
Early care and education.
Early care and education at DSS, I thought it was called something. Anyway, they do have funding. So we're looking at how we can utilize that funding to help leverage the funding that we get. The total cost for the 3.5 years for the 2 counties, I think, was 3.4 million, I think. But it came down to 21,000 a family, and actually got cheaper as may go up because of cost of living, but it actually went down in the years. Imagine if for 21,000 a family, you could really turn that trajectory of that life of that family and that child, because you're connecting them to all these resources and providing the individual and family therapy. Places like New Horizons, all that, they will bill Medicaid, and the van will come out once a month. So every family, even if they're not getting that individual and family therapy, if they don't need that, will receive that. Families that are on Medicaid, we're able to leverage the private dollars with Medicaid dollars for individual and family therapy. But we know we have 2 families here now that are on scholarship that do not qualify for Medicaid. but their children, one of them, child has been kicked out of 3. Every child here has been kicked out of preschool at least once, except the babies, the severe developmental delays or severe, sibling history. But we have 2 on scholarship that are craving, it's like if you're a middle-class family and your family needs this support, you can't get it. So we've been piloting in the center scholarshiping children and what that really looks like, but we can capture those children out in the community. I hope that answers your question, Deb.
So explain to me, when you say center, tell me what an example. And then the other thing is, what level of salary is that person? Are they are they a master's level, and how much approximately is that, are we talking about?
Sure. So like an example would be like a Head Start, like Share Head Start would be
Okay.
an example. In Spartanburg, there was a few centers, like an ABC Quality Center, so we're looking again for something important to think about too, is that we are looking for these hot pockets of underserved areas. That is, again, our mission is really helping the people who need the most help and don't have any other resources. And so part of the work that we're doing with ICS and part of the work that we have been doing is a lot of research and development has already been done and gone into the design of how we got here. And so it's really working with ICS because all of the concepts and principles that we have kind of compiled as like best practices, we're really just applying them is what we're doing. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're really trying to apply them in a coordinated way to show that compounded and compiled like makes more impact than just than when you have them siloed. We're really trying to unsilo everything. And so part of the work we're doing with ICS is also establishing the evaluation and the benchmarks of what, health outcomes that currently exist nationally on the local level within our centers. And there's a lot of data that's going to go, an evaluation that goes into all of these centers, or there's data sharing that's going to be part of it. We're really wanting to look at the child data, the family data, the professionals as well. We're wanting to look at the professionals' demographics, their ages. We're wanting to look at we're wanting to show all of that, which is why we have the ICS who does all of this great research, because we're really wanting to show all of the different disparities that exist for children, for their caregivers, for the center, to really show these problems, but also show when you have ways of incentivizing and creating career pathways, what will that do for the center? You are able to show that you have the quality is improving when you have these professionals, and the service is improving to those children. And so school readiness, is going to be a huge thing that we look at. That is a measure that we are wanting to impact with having a 3-year pilot. The goal is to test, retest, test, retest. That's the kind of that whole quality improvement part, kind of like flying it and building it all at the same time. But we have a really good structure currently for how we want to start it. Like with the professionals who do go there, they are able to provide individual therapy and family therapy, which does requires a license to bill at a certain level for Medicaid. However, we do have other lower tiered options, which would be maybe not as intensive, but for therapeutic childcare, there's an individual service that can be provided as well, that you don't have to have a licensure. So we're really trying to make it so that you don't have to have a license to be able to get into all of the jobs that we are trying to create. We're trying to kind of create this ability to have these tiered ways. So we're not just pigeonholing ourselves and just keeping ourselves super clinical, because we do think that there are these centers may not need and children may not need all the same things all the time. They might not need individual therapy and family therapy. They might just need access to healthcare and so we would be able to provide certain services. So we're really trying to kind of think about how we make this how we really just maximize our whole opportunity to create these different ways and not be too narrow in the way that we're thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? Because we're really trying to include the people who are not licensed, but have a lived experience, worked in many different capacities and very much able to serve these families on a very high level, caring and provide them a wonderful service that's not, but not have a license to do the psychotherapy and individual therapy. They can do they can provide the therapeutic childcare, service that would be less intensive. So we're really trying to get those tiers and those to correct, but make sure that the revenue model matches. So I don't know if I answered all of your questions, but they are getting paid. I mean, as far as salary, we are very competitive. Again, our competition is both early childcare and private practice. So we have we have licensed therapists, but we also have early childhood and educators. And so we have a mix of, of different backgrounds. And so we just have to think about how we.
So I do want to say, since we just to clarify, when you see the letters of intent in the budget, we built in at the master's license level. But we know over the 3.5 years, as we study it, we may find, for example, it takes, just to become an LPC, it takes 2 years to go through that process. So we know that there might be somebody mastered, but not licensed. We also know, I mean, I was a BSW for a long time before I became a master's social worker, and I was licensed. We know that there are paths that people are going through. We see, Tanya's talked to me many times with the training, the intense training that we've been providing over the last 5-6 years. We're really seeing a really positive quality workforce, so that maybe they can, and how can we work with the state on the advocacy side? We're looking at, can we get the state to accept endorsement? Because there's different levels of endorsement.
Like for Medicaid, for example.
Right. And can we get, and so the collective voices, it's not always everybody's, it's not money, it's the collection, can we draw those state dollars? So just wanted you to know that when you saw the LOI in the budget, that's what that would, in both of the two.
Well, I am aware from talking to Greg Pierce, who is the Commissioner of South Carolina Mental Health, that this is pretty disturbing, that a master's level mental health counselor in our state, the pay grade is $36,000 a year. A prison guard makes $31,000 a year. So, the first thing that we really have to do is increase our state funding for these professionals who would probably rather go to another state where they have a better.
Well, we experienced that exact thing.
And I mean, there's no excuse for that. Now, that's just low hanging fruit. You don't have to be.
And Tracy, the other
It's
problem
terrible.
we have on that end is, even if you are a licensed clinician and you go to a private place or whatnot, and you get a salary that you're comfortable with, we literally had to send the resume to the state to have the state approved. We had one woman, when I was here, we desperately wanted to hire her, coming from Florida, wanting to go to North or South Carolina. 12 years of really good documented experience, great references with early childhood mental health. State said she needed 2 courses that she'd been out for a while that weren't on her transcript, not just a resume, the transcript. We couldn't hire her and let her get the courses in a period of time. Guess where she went to work? North Carolina. And we have no reciprocity between states. We have raised this with Bruce Bannister and the Myra Public Health. We had gotten a grant right before I left for Cherokee, Chris Steeves Foundation had funded for mental health, I forget, public health, Myra.
Public health.
I forget her last name, Maya, anyway, to fund, it's a huge shortage. And so, and people are going into
MyPac.
private practice now. Yeah, MyPac. Yep. That MyPac. Other thoughts, questions, things to think about?
So can we, so you're talking about 10 pilot sites and putting a salaried employee who works for a Child's Haven in those locations. So like a Head Start center would.
Could be a Head
have
Start, could be
person
an ABC
who's
center,
Child's Haven
regular
employee
child.
providing service. So is that person's primary function providing services directly to children and families? Or is it in coaching the practitioners who are in the centers to deliver services?
So that's where it gets a little bit interesting. Like, we're trying to do a little bit of both. We, as being endorsed people, we want, part of the goal is to help provide and create a trauma-informed environment, a culturally sensitive environment, you know, for that whole center, and help the and do what we can to help the professionals create those classrooms and those strategies and implement those strategies that we know are workable. And so that is part of the overall goal of that person and that job description that would be included in it, because we see it as if they're working, you know, working with a few different children, and we would see, we know that our caseload here is 10 children per therapist, can have a whole caseload of 10 and provide all the services that way. But part of helping that child is not just that individual therapy where the child, like they're taking the child to a room, and you'll see our therapy spaces here, but they're working on that treatment plan with individually on that social emotional, maybe it's if they're getting CPP, which is child parent psychotherapy, which is what all we are rostered in, our therapists are rostered in as well, which is a very effective evidence-based model that we brought to South Carolina to a Child's Haven because it's so effective, but they are working one-on-one. But then the goal is to help that child then integrate and transition, because transitions are very, very difficult for all children, but especially children who have experienced trauma and, you know, are more sensitive. I mean, it shows up in a lot of different ways. Obviously, you know, there's the behaviors that are very expressive, but there's also the knowing when children are, what the signs of neglect are as well. I think is all, I mean, these are kinds of things that we have to get our professionals to know and see that, you know, a child sitting in the corner and not interacting that's not an okay thing. Like, it's not something that we want. Like, it might be nice because the child's not interrupting, but that is not what we really want for our center. We're really looking for engagement. And so what we're also there to is to promote that family or that child focused or that relationship focused approach. And so that's really what we advocate and champion and bring to the whole center. So it would be it would be that, but it would also be training, professional development, support, and coaching would kind of be wrapped into that.
And the way we wrote it into the LOIs, when you see that concept, we wrote in a mentee so that the centers that we work with have to agree to identify 1 or 2 people that would be a mentee to that person, and then, you know, spread the word, talk about
To get
it,
endorsed,
to be right,
to help
become-
support that whole endorsement.
right, the whole thing,
Yeah.
and pyramid model and the whole thing. We will provide training to all of the centers, maybe come here and do the training, you know, those kinds of things. But that mentee, we also built into the budget. One of the foundations who wasn't able to be here today said, you got to put in bonus incentives. So we built in, we put $2,500 a person if you get endorsed. And there's different, like there's a childcare staff level for endorsement. So we built that into the budget. And we hadn't thought about that until we had conversations like this with, you know, a funder, because of that whole salary and et cetera.
But that is like the most important thing. I think that's the incentive for individuals to work to stay in the profession rather than hop to another profession, is that incentive. And so I really think that needs to be something we look at. And it needs to be a pretty significant investment, I would say, like, just because we're kind of saying like almost not rather than getting your license, you can go this way and you can work and be endorsed at the same time. That work, that's what's so great about it, is that we really see this as a gift at a Child's Haven. People are working, getting paid, you know, doing their thing, but we're also paying for them to get all the training and professional development to get endorsed, which is a credential they can bring and transfer everywhere. So we're really trying to model that as a whole center and show and help other centers who do not have the capacity to be doing research and development and like implementation of these kinds of things. We want to be able to help support them because it's a really big undertaking. We're figuring this out with schema and pyramid model at like, it's not an easy process, you know what I mean? So there's that coordination, that's the support, and there's that guidance that I think is needed so that these plans don't fall short, because again, they have a million other things that people are working on, and it's really hard to keep these kinds of things going without the proper support and planning. Sorry.
No, just kind of to piggyback on Derek's question. So this will involve 10.
And we're scaling up.
10,
Yeah.
okay.
Oh, yeah, we're not.
That
we're
is
not doing it all the
assigned?
time.
Okay.
At the end of 10 years.
Right,
at 10,
okay.
3, we'll have 10.
All right, and so they're assigned to a center, okay? And then will someone decide if they're gonna focus on a classroom or focus on certain children in a classroom? Or tell me a little bit more about how the technical assistance with.
That's going to be part of the design that the ICS will help us with,
Okay.
you know, and part of looking at the MOU, hearing from the childcare centers themselves. I mean, Leslie said to us when we met, you know, childcare providers, they'll hop for a quarter. I think, was that your exact quote, you know? And so where is the greatest need? How can we best? We haven't yet, we're going to do a similar meeting with childcare providers and see who bubbles up. The first two there'll be one recommended by Greenville and one recommended by Spartanburg. But really having, you know, taking these centers that the two communities recommend that we work with and have a similar meeting and really hear from them, you know, their boots on the ground, you know, what really do you need? And so what we think in the beginning of the 3.5 years might look totally different. I mean, we're asking people to come on board and help us to really, you know, change the trajectory of how we're approaching childcare. And we see on the back end all these incredible mental health. You know, I'm helping an agency in North Carolina that, you know, there's so much you see on my passion comes from my own ex-husband's child abuse that he had and what it did to him and not getting the family support. So you are going to help us along with others.
I have a lot of ideas.
But just to kind of an example of something that Tammy Compton from Spartanburg. First Steps. So talking with her, what we know is that what happens a lot in childcare centers is that if there are children who are more disruptive or are showing signs of developmental delays or just really difficult behaviors, that's usually when the teacher will let the director know. That's what they're usually prompted to do, is like they have a supervisor and everything. And so that's when there's supervision or the management gets involved, director gets involved. That's usually how it works. So we're kind of seeing is that, you know, for those children that would be identified, because that's where we would come in. But then there's also this concept too, that I'm talking, we have a board member of I Trust Wellness, who is the CEO. He's in mental health and all about business and data analytics. And some of the things we were talking about too is the concept of, could we, as part of the enrollment process of children at these child care centers, could we somehow be worked in to help do a universal screening in a way that is, again, not not offensive, not, but it's a universal screening like a lot of other states do, to help us just kind of get a baseline of where children and families are. And then from there, we would have a more proactive approach of they would have resources that would be available to help them in that instance. So it really feels like a much more social services kind of approach of like, we want to see where you are, like we're being more proactive and preventative. But again, finding a way to work with these centers to there's still an important piece that we still want people to know about ACEs and toxic stress at the very young level, not just for these families that we're identifying, but if there's a way that we can provide general education and understanding for families, I think that's also a way that we are trying to kind of really think about how to change and like open people's eyes about preventable approaches and like how bad ACEs are really, and like, and what we can be doing to change it. And so I think that's part of the work that I'd like to see as well.
Tanya, I'd like to just comment on, I love the 2-generational approach to that. Just was probably the biggest surprise for me as a guardian is, these perfect children are screwed up by the generation of before them. But a little bit of a hole, I might have seen it, and then maybe it was on some of the smaller slides, is just the degree of substance abuse that's out there that leads to criminal behavior, that the child just does not have a chance in that environment. And I thought becoming a guardian, it would be, food insecurities, poverty, and 98% of it was drug abuse from their parents. So who's the partner there, or just, if it's not there or solid, I just think the attention toward that substance abuse is key.
It is. And so you're 100% right. And, the substance abuse, what we know too, is that really is most likely because of their own ACEs and them developing coping skills to really to kind of process or to cope with all of their trauma. And so that is a really hard nut to break. I worked in drug court a while. So.
But you did talk about.
South Carolina Thrive.
Well, yeah, ST Thrive, which will help do the assessment.
And the New
then
Horizons does.
Referral, but also, you were talking about, on my list that you wanted me to reach out to is the Phoenix Center. And I just hadn't done that yet. And what intentional partnership we could be doing. I also just learned about something yesterday that the state is pulling together a resource for veterans specifically. And, we have a lot of veterans that are young parents of young children that we will be seeing in this. And so there is a referral opportunity through there as well. So taking the resources already that we have at the table with SC Thrive and New Horizons, but I'm glad you said that, bringing in, it'll make me follow up with the Phoenix Center or other appropriate agency that you all may recommend.
Our health authorities also been supportive of Favor.
Favor is one. So they're. But like, exactly, but finding those, those partnerships in the community that we are taking away the barriers for them getting that right away. And that's, that timeliness of services, the need of services, and all of that is really what we're trying to help kind of connect for people and make it a little bit more seamless for the individuals that we're serving. So, but that for sure is part of kind of that whole 2-generation, one of the major issues that we know and see, which also when we look at domestic violence and, they're just the correlation of they're all interconnected. And so very aware of that issue.
I will say that from talking to the people at Favor, they are very, very interested in getting involved in more underserved areas.
Yes.
I think the model they have and being on Woodruff Roads, I mean, they will come to you, and they've got a couple of counselors that are doing really.
Yeah, I will give a call to.
Going into areas, the gal that does the AIDS.
Yeah.
I mean, it's some of the stuff they're doing is incredible. And the nice thing is they don't do insurance or anything.
Right.
So everything you get from them is free.
Yeah.
So you don't have to do the paperwork and, every time I come to one of these things, I don't know how y'all deal with the paperwork and the licensing and stuff. I mean, y'all be trying to do is help people.
Right.
We've got to do something about all that.
Exactly. And we're constantly
ridiculous.
reassessing and
You know,
re-traumatizing.
Medicaid, if you don't put the right words in, like,
It's absurd.
it is,
It's absurd. There's.
So,
no-
that is a great recommendation, and also my other part-time, I'm doing interim for Compass of Carolina. Now that you mentioned that, they have free counseling for adults with domestic violence and substance abuse. I guess they need to partner too.
Yep, I'd already written them down.
Right. And you know, right.
So you're right. So what other, resources and things, we hope that everybody will come on this journey with us, and that Greenville County and Spartanburg County are leading the way, and developing an affordable model. Maybe it starts out more expensive now, but it really becomes, less expensive, and we brought in the appropriate government financing as well.
One of the things I know that's affecting the childcare space is turnover. So as you all are kind of thinking of implementation, how have you kind of compensated for high turnover in the childcare space, especially working with families and children dealing with trauma? And so the importance of having a trusted individual working continuously with families. How are you kind of thinking through that?
So a few different things that that we're kind of working on is, one is the compensation. We've done a lot of work to make sure that we are very competitive with compensation. We also have moved to really great benefits.
Yeah, I'm thinking like in the center.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So as
Sorry.
you were working on training and development
Yes.
in the center.
Yes.
That's where the advocacy comes in, and also the bonus for getting endorsed. We put in $2,500 towards that. But I mean, we've been working even before I was ever at United Way, this workforce, it's really an advocacy thing that collectively that we take seriously childcare wages. I mean, you're putting your precious loved one, yet, I mean, it's the wage is just pitiful.
Well, just to demonstrate how horrific it really is. When I was department head for early care and education at Greenville Tech, and this was 30 years ago, more than 30 years ago, the average wage was $8.25. So in 30 years,
75 cents.
we've gone up. So if you really do a comparison of other professions and how their wages have gone up according to the value that the consumer is willing to pay, that comparison is how valuable are our children?
Right, exactly.
And so it really is a advocacy and policy
It is.
initiative of kind of everybody getting on the same page to figure out how to take those steps forward. We haven't done well in 30 years.
So
It's still an issue.
when Tanya talked about looking at the workforce, the piece that is critical that we can help is the same services that we're providing to families will be available to the workforce in the center. So whatever community partners we bring in, the mobile, many of these childcare workers don't have health insurance, so creating access to health to the caregiver, the provider, at the local center, the favor resources, the other reason, SC Thrive. So we're building that in, but we hope through time. So we did not build in any money for advocacy per se. Because we hope we will have advocacy that comes out of it, but we didn't put in like a staff member for advocacy. Believe it or not, we're trying to keep focused.
Well, but
that's why we put those little buckets there that all kind of.
But you have partners.
Yeah, absolutely.
That, with the First Steps and of course ICS and others that are very attuned
Yes.
into
We would love
developing
to
those
get it
common
on the-
agendas.
Exactly, that's why we
raise
want
public
to
policy agenda and really help bring the partners that we're bringing in this age to really raise the bar in
And
this.
one of the things on our state public policy agenda, childcare is front and on that agenda, specifically around employer sponsored childcare. So that's
Yep.
how we're
Mhm.
looking
It's a
at
big one.
childcare, is that bridge between childcare and workforce development.
Yeah. That is.
Will you send that agenda? And are you going to be together soon?
Yeah, I'm happy to send it for the state agenda.
So we are at 10:29. Any last burning question, comment? Thank you so much for being here. Sally and Michael, for anybody that would like to tour and see our new therapeutic outdoor environment that we recently got funded over the pandemic, as well as any other aspects, that we really appreciate you being here. So thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for helping us, and we'll follow up. I'm sure we'll have more conversation.
Do you have other meetings?
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
no.
was nice.
Just go straight back now. Yeah, I tried. Plus two.
That. Well,